Hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of Pain to Power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and today's episode is a little quieter, a little more contemplative. It's not something that I sat down and planned, it's something that's been revealing itself to me slowly through deep meditation, lived experience, and moments of stillness where clarity tends to arrive on its own. Very often in meditation, insights come through for me, not as fully formed answers, but as gentle reminders. Simple truths that land, they linger and ask to be explored. Over time, I've learned to listen, to capture them by writing them down on a notepad in my phone, and then to shape them into something shareable in the hope that what's been meaningful for me might also meet you exactly where you are. That's what this episode is. A few of those reflections offered gently. If you have moments of deep insight in your meditations or when you're out for a walk doing something that soothes your monkey mind, I would invite you to also take a moment to jot down your thoughts, your ideas, and contemplations down where you can come back to them later. Oftentimes, these ideas and revelations don't make sense in the moment, or they don't feel like a complete concept. But if you write them down and come back to them later, as I have, I think you will find higher guidance is gently lighting the path forward for you. So, the first thing I want to touch upon today is the pressure to be present. We hear it everywhere, don't we? Be present, stay in the now. The present moment is all there is. And while that sounds beautiful, and sometimes it is, I want to say something that might feel a little uncomfortable, but also very honest. When your current situation is painful, when you're grieving, when you're lonely, when you're overwhelmed, when you're uncertain about your future, being told to just be present can feel very invalidating. Because if the present moment hurts, it's awfully hard to imagine a way forward. Presence alone isn't always soothing. Sometimes it's confronting. Sometimes it's raw and heavy. And I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. They think that if they're struggling, they must be doing presence wrong, that they should be calmer, more evolved, or more grateful. But here's the truth I've come to understand. The goal is not to love where you are. The goal is not to pretend you're okay when you're not. The goal is to simply see where you are and accept it. Not with resignation, not with defeat, but with honesty. Because once you can say, this is where I am, without judgment, something powerful happens. You're no longer fighting reality. And when you stop fighting reality, you free up an enormous amount of energy. It allows you the space and the freedom to clearly contemplate your next best steps. And acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance has a terrible PR problem. We hear acceptance and think it means settling or resigning, giving up on change. But that's not what acceptance actually is. Acceptance is clarity. It's standing on solid ground instead of emotional quicksand. When you resist what is, you exhaust yourself. When you argue with reality, reality always wins, and you lose peace in the process. Acceptance says, this is happening, this is how I feel, this is where I am right now. And from that place, not from panic or denial, you can devise a way forward. You can't move intentionally if you're busy fighting the reality of your current circumstances. Acceptance isn't the end of the road, it's the starting point. One of the clearest metaphors that's come to me in meditation is this idea of static. If you think of an old radio dial, even if you're slightly off frequency, all you hear is noise, some crackling, some distortion, some interference. Maybe you can hear some of the words, but nothing's coming in clearly. And here's the thing. The static feels loud, chaotic, urgent, and demanding. But that's not the message. Anything that disrupts your peace, anything that hijacks your nervous system, anything that pulls you out of your center, that's static. It might come in the form of anxiety, maybe intrusive thoughts or other people's expectations, perhaps old conditioning or fear-based stories about the future. Static does not mean something's wrong with you. It just means the dial needs some adjusting. And I think so many of us have mistaken static for truth. We believe every thought we think. We obey every emotional spike. We assume urgency means importance. But peace also has a frequency. Clarity has a frequency. Truth has a frequency. And the moment you stop treating every sensation as a command, you reclaim your power, not through force, not through positive thinking, but by remembering that you are the one holding the dial. And here's another truth that unfolded for me. And I want you to really hear this without ego getting involved. I am the center of the universe. And so are you. This isn't about superiority. It's about perspective. Every single human experiences life from a completely unique vantage point. No two people see the exact same thing in the exact same way. Even when they're standing side by side, your experiences, your emotions, your interpretations, your pain, your joy, they all happen inside your awareness. And this is why it's so important to be careful about telling someone else that they're fine. We often see this with children. A child falls, scrapes a knee, or bumps their head, and the instinct is to quickly say, "You're fine, you're okay." And maybe physically they are. Maybe there's no serious injury. But when we do that, we're not just assessing their body, we're overriding their experience. We're teaching them very subtly that someone else gets to decide how they feel, that their own sensations can't be trusted, that their inner signals are negotiable. And over time, that creates doubt. Doubt in their emotions, doubt in their intuition, doubt in their ability to read their own inner world. Because if someone outside you gets to determine your level of okayness, you learn to look outward for validation instead of inward for truth. Instead of saying you're fine, we can say something like, "I saw what happened. Can you tell me what you're feeling? Do you think you'll be okay to shake it off?" It keeps the child connected to their own experience instead of teaching them to doubt it. And when you really understand this, something softens. You stop trying to convince everyone else that your reality is the right one. And you stop minimizing your own experience just because someone else doesn't understand it. Your inner world matters, and so does the inner world of all those around you. And the next part feels especially important to share. I want to express that we live in a world that constantly tells us that we're incomplete. That in order to be whole, we need a romantic partner. We need approval. We need success and validation. And I want to gently, lovingly call that out as a lie. I am whole and complete just as I am, and so are you. I don't need a romantic partner to fulfill me. Welcoming another into my life would be an enhancement, not a necessity. And if I were to welcome a partner into my life, it would be someone who already feels whole within themselves. Because two whole people don't cling. They don't complete each other. They share in experiences together. But they're also willing to give each other space. Clinging doesn't come from love. It comes from fear. From the belief that without the other person, something essential would be lost. That safety, identity, or worth depends on their presence. And when a relationship is built on that kind of fear, it stops being a space of mutual joy and becomes a place of emotional survival. Two whole people choose each other, not because they need to, but because they want to. They aren't grasping for stability, they're offering companionship. That's a very different energy. Together could be joyful, deeply joyful, but not required for worth, not required for peace, not required for wholeness. Wanting connection does not mean that something's missing in you. It simply means you're human. And this is where everything comes together. I've been reminding myself for a few years now that I'm enough, that I've always been enough, and I will always be enough. Not because of what I do, not because of how healed I am, not because of who chooses me, but because my very existence makes me worthy. Therefore, I am enough. I am smart enough, I am strong enough, I'm worthy enough, and so are you. If you're listening to this right now, I want you to know you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late to your life. Nothing external can confirm what was already true. When you stop outsourcing your worth, when you stop waiting for permission, when you stop chasing wholeness outside of yourself, that static quiets. And what remains is something steady, something calm, something deeply familiar. It's you. So maybe being present isn't about loving every moment. Maybe it's about honoring this moment exactly as it is, seeing clearly, accepting honestly, and choosing gently. You don't have to figure out the whole future. You just have to stop fighting the now. And from that place, movement becomes possible. Peace becomes accessible, and the signal becomes clear. If it feels right, I invite you to sit quietly for just a moment after this episode ends. No fixing, no forcing, and simply ask yourself, where am I mistaking static for truth? And what happens if I trust that I'm already enough? Can you see the possibilities? Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to listen, reflect, and be present with yourself. Your willingness to turn inward matters more than you know. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I truly honor you for being here and for choosing to do this deeper work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to stay connected. You can sign up for my newsletter at empoweredbythestorm.com/newsletter. And when you do, you'll receive a free copy of my How to Love Yourself workbook as a thank you. My book, Empowered by the Storm, is also available on Amazon if you'd like to go deeper into this work on your own time. And if you're feeling called to more personal support, you can visit my website to explore private coaching and see if it feels like the right next step for you. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, trust your journey, and remember, your healing matters.